He's got to show me he can throw and put up a good game plan against an inferior football team now. You know one thing I'm going to be looking for? Let's do this. I don't want to see the Eagles play down to their competition. Well, it's a football Friday. Welcome aboard, Big Sills. Pull up a chair, put your phone somewhere, watch us on your television set, tablet, desktop, whatever you want to do. We welcome you aboard here on the National Football Show. It is going to be, I think, one of the most interesting weekends in the NFL. Week 3. We're getting closer to seeing trends. We're getting closer to getting an identity on some NFL teams, and most notably the Philadelphia Eagles. So, we're going to find out a lot about the character of the football team when they play Washington. And I'm going to explain here in a second. By the way, our good friend John McMullen will join us from Birds 365 at the bottom of this hour. We will get his thoughts on what he thinks he's going to see against the Washington Commanders. That'll be at 3:30 Eastern time. Okay, please hit the like button. Let me get you started here. I think this is a big weekend for Howie Roseman, too. Let me explain to you. He's got the trifecta going. This is going to be a big weekend for Howie. When you see that guy across the way and you see Carson Wentz across the way, Howie made that guy a millionaire. He made that guy wealthy. Let's take a look at what he has on the line this weekend. You drafted the guy number 2 overall. You gave the guy an enormous contract extension. And now he's in the division. Guys, don't let him beat you now. Now, I'm going to talk about the game here in a second. Howie's got something on the line here. What's up, GT? Robert, appreciate you guys coming in. Miguel, Steven, thank you guys so much. A big football weekend, like I said. But do you agree? That would kind of be a black eye on Howie Roseman if Wentz wins. By the way, let me bury the lead for you. Roster-wise, Washington shouldn't be in this ball game. But I'm going to explain why I think they will be in this game, at least for about 3 quarters. Okay? Okay? You see? He's starting already. I'm not starting nothing. Wait a minute, GT. You don't think that there's something on the line for Howie? What if that guy beats Hurts and the Eagles? And they got the same identical record in the NFC East. You don't think that's a thing? I do. Jerry Jones had to go out on radio today and explain why Amari Cooper is not on the Dallas Cowboys after Cooper last night put up another C-note in receiving yards. That's 2 weeks in a row now that Amari Cooper's put up a C-note in yards. And by the way, CeeDee Lamb, I don't know. That guy ain't better, and I'll say it one more time to you. CeeDee Lamb is not better than Devontae Smith. No freaking way. No way is CeeDee Lamb better than Devontae. No way. If you told me, Sills, who do you want, Devontae Smith, CeeDee Lamb? You give me Devontae Smith all night, all week, and all month long. Absolutely. I'm not taking CeeDee Lamb over Devontae Smith. Are you high? Richard goes, wait a minute. What am I stirring up? You guys have an illness. Okay? Hang in there. You don't think Howie is looking at this game too with some excitement and emotion? He doesn't want that guy to win. One, it's a divisional opponent. Secondly, it's Wentz. Come on, guys. Give this to me here. Right? You got to agree. This isn't anything really about Jalen. Jalen's looking at this game, divisional opponent, and Jalen Hurts respects everybody that he's ever played with. He's the ultimate teammate. This guy's got a Brady quality about himself, the way he conducts himself. I'm talking Jalen Hurts. And on the other end, you got a guy who's got to work at the – God, you know what, man? Here's the worst thing you could tell an athlete to do. I'd rather have you tell me to do this. Hey, work on your arm strength. Hey, work on your seam passes. Hey, work on your pocket presence. I never want to have to tell a player in a team meeting or in an individual meeting, hey, why don't you work on being a good teammate? That's the shittiest thing to hear. You're not a very good teammate. Be a better teammate. You don't want to hear that conversation. Hey, work on your arm strength. Work on this, you know? Okay? Right? Is CD better than Quez? I think so. Okay? I think so. Okay? I think so. 27-24, Dion says Eagles. Whoa. All right, let's get into it here. A little bit more here before we get into the topics. I'm going to make this point to you here. After week 3, if I don't see Hassan Reddick make an impact play on Sunday against the Washington Commanders, I'm going to start to throw the word bust around. I'm going to start to throw that word around, not a good sign. That dude can't be running around like a chicken with his head chopped off against one of the worst O-lines in the NFL. He's got to do something. He has had zero impact on a football team. Zero. This kid's got to step in there, man, and do something. I don't see him on a stat chart. Come Monday, Big Sills is going to start doing this. That's a bad sign. That's a bad sign by your boy Howie Roseman. Now, he goes into a divisional game, and that guy pulls off 3 sacks. We're back to going, hey, let's let the season play itself out here and see how this guy does, right? Okay? Dion says you have to move Reddick around how Dallas uses Parsons. I've been saying that since they signed the dude. No more dropping back in coverage, all that stuff. Thanks, Richard. I appreciate it. Wentz sacked 4 times. That might not shock me. Let's do this one. Here's another one. I have a hit list. I like a couple things that I like to get off my chest before we get into the topics. Do you think Jalen Hurts has played good football in the first 2 weeks of the season? Yeah, I do. I do. You think Jonathan Gannon has put 2 good game plans together the first 2 weeks of the season? I don't think that game plan against Detroit was very good. I think the game plan against Minnesota was great. Here's the big one. Can Jonathan Gannon do it 2 weeks in a row? GT, you really think Jonathan Gannon has put 2 good game plans together in 2 weeks? Not me. I don't. Or maybe you were talking about Jalen playing good football in the first 2 weeks, and I think that's the case. He has. He's been a chameleon in the first 2 weeks, Jalen Hurts. Had to run the ball against Detroit, had to throw the ball against Minnesota. That's versatility, and that shows you what he can bring to an offense. Okay? Rage, that's where I'm at. I think the players really stepped up and had a great game on Monday night against the Vikings. I really did. I don't think anything he did out of the unordinary, except for a couple blitzes. I don't think he was spectacular when it came to putting a game plan together for Minnesota. I think Donatelli, the guy from the Vikings, I don't know what he was doing. He was so worried about Jalen Hurts running wild that he played that soft coverage zone, and that's what really hurt him, in my opinion. I want to see Jonathan Gannon be as consistent as we're starting to see Jalen Hurts with some consistency. Is that fair? Let's see. And by the way, he's got the personnel to run this team over. He's got the personnel to run it over, okay? Jalen's played well, I think. first 2 weeks of the season. He's got to show me he could throw and put up a good game plan against an inferior football team now. You know one thing I'm going to be looking for? Let's do this. I don't want to see the Eagles play down to their competition. Let's step on the gas pedal. I'm going to give you something that Steve Spurrier told me years ago. You know why Steve Spurrier? And by the way, Xander, you'll love this because this is a trick that coaches have. A guy like Saban. Why do you think Nick Saban, when he's playing Tennessee Chattanooga, and he's up 69 points, guy jumps off sides, he blows a gasket? What is he teaching them? He's teaching them, don't play down to your competition. They got Vanderbilt this week. They're favored by 45 points. And if he doesn't beat them by 45 points, as far as he's going to be concerned, they didn't play to the best of their ability. Don't ever let off the gas pedal. Don't ever let off of the throat of your opponent once you have them down. Gannon showed me against Detroit that he did that. Now, that may have been some conditioning. Okay? But I want to see Gannon put these game plans together. John McMullen, don't forget, bottom of the hour. Okay? What happens in this game on Sunday? Let me get to it in my prediction. It is clear the Eagles have the best roster when you're looking at the two. Quarterback, talent-wise, everything, you're looking at it. Watch this. Wentz may have the talent. Hurts is the better quarterback. Is A.J. Brown better than Terry McLaurin? Yes. Is he better than the kid Dotson, Devontae Smith? Yes. Do they have a better tight end? Yes. Do they have a better O-line? Yes. Do they have a better D-line? I'm going to say it's comparable. Because I'll tell you something. Allen and that group have underachieved. Do they have better linebackers? Yes. Do they have better corners? Yes. Eagles, I'm talking. There's nothing in this game. Do you have a better running back? Kind of a push. I like Antonio Gibson. I think he can move the chains. I think he's a good back. Okay? Here's what I see, though, in this football game. It's going to be some emotion in this ball game for Carson Wentz. Is he going to come into this game all revved up and overamped? And is he going to make plays early on? And I think the Eagles are going to have to weather that a little bit because he's either going to come out like his hair is on fire, or he's going to come out and he's just going to be all over himself. And you know what I mean by that. This guy's going to urinate all over himself. He's either going to do one of the two because this is who he is. Flex, it's personal for Hurts. Wentz treated him like an outcast. That's not what I've heard. And that's not how the two men have been talking about one another. When you hear some of their public comments, that's not what I got when I heard Jalen Hurts talking about Carson Wentz. That's not what I heard. So I heard both men publicly talking about the respect level that they had for each other, Flex. I completely disagree with that. You know? Now, could Jalen be saying that publicly? Why would he? Why wouldn't he just say, hey, it was a learning experience for both of us in Philadelphia, and we both are starting quarterbacks, and it's going to be a lot of fun on Sunday. You didn't have to say you respect him, and he didn't have to reciprocate it and say the same thing. I think both men respect one another's position that they were put in by the organization. And it looks like it's benefited both guys. Wentz is making a ton of money. Jalen may make a ton of money at the end of the day. And both guys are starting quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't know. I think there's a lot of respect in the room there for one another. Look, when you play in the NFL, a lot of the things that have been put around you are not your own doing. A lot of it has to do organizationally. You know, it's funny how people take a shit on Carson Wentz, and yet you turn around and no one says the animosity that must have been evident between Doug Peterson and also with Howie Roseman, and yet Doug gets the benefit. Hey, Carson helped you win the Super Bowl too, dude. He's part of that dynamic too. Do the research. Flex, the only research I heard is from the guys' mouths themselves. I don't need to do any research. I heard both those guys talking. And there's a way you can not have to answer a question if you know that it could get you in trouble. You know how you answer it? Hey, it was a very interesting experience that we had in Philadelphia. We both learned from it. We both grew from it. I'm glad to see Carson's got a starting job. I've got a starting job, and let's move on. You don't have to say I respect a guy. Nobody throws respect out and that comment out unless you do. I'm never going to go like this. Hey, I respect that guy, and I don't. I'm going to come up with a different way of answering the question. And I think that's exactly what he did. Okay? Rage says Wentz had 7 picks all last year, and you guys acting like he's like a pick machine. Actually, if you look at the numbers, Rage, in the last 19 games, Carson Wentz has thrown 34 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. Okay, so, I mean, those are exceptional numbers. Sales, does Washington have the personnel to consistently blitz Hurts? I think they do, GT. Let me get into what I see happening here, or what I think should end up happening. If I'm the Eagles, and I brought this up a couple days ago to you, if I'm the Eagles, I'm running the shit out of the ball, man. I don't believe that front seven can stop them. And guess what it does? It sets a tone. You own the clock. You're going to be third and short. But there's no reason to throw the ball around the yard. None. Why do I want to take a chance at tip passes, 3 and outs? Why do I want to put Washington to sleep as quick as I can. What's the best way to put Washington to sleep? Run the ball at them. Just run them over. They've got the offense to do that with Jalen too. And I don't really have to run Jalen that much because of the way that Miles Sanders is playing. Run them over. Now, I think you're going to have to expect some run blitzes. And I think that's what Washington's going to do to try to slow the passing game down and also the run game. They're going to put guys in positions to stop that run game and pressure Jalen Hurts at the same time. I think that game plan that Detroit had in week 1, I think that's a way to stop him. The difference is this. I think Detroit's got more personnel than Washington. I think the back end of Washington, their secondary and their corners aren't very good. I actually think Detroit has better personnel. You know what? Quite frankly, I think Detroit has the best personnel overall team-wise as the best team that so far they've played in the first 2 weeks. I actually think Washington has less. I think they have less. This is going to come down to game planning too. What's Shane Steichen's mentality going in there? Are they going to fall in love with what they did on Monday? Or are they going to stick to what they're going to do and what they've been able to do? And you know what that is? Put a chameleon plan together. What do I mean by that? You know, one of the great things that made the Patriots so awesome, you never knew what to expect each and every single week and how they were going to attack you and their approach to attacking you. To me, you got to look at the missing links and the weakest links on the Washington team. It's clearly in their back end. Maybe they do use Goddard here. I don't think their secondary is very good. Imagine this. I think their front four can't stop the run, and their secondary is not very good. And that's why they're playing a lot of zone coverage. This has got the remedy for a big game and a big night for the Eagles. If they stay within themselves and they run the ball 30 times, they throw the ball 30 times, 35 times, I think they beat this football team 31-20. Wentz is going to throw and make plays. He's also going to throw and make mistakes. We know this. There is no way any guy in his right mind consider. Now, I do think the game may be a 10-point, 8-point game going into the third quarter. And I think it's a road game. It's a divisional game. They're always close. Okay? They're always close. But I think something like 31 points, quite frankly, they haven't really scored a ton of points outside of the opener. 24 against Minnesota, right? I mean, 38, I think it was, against Detroit. That's not bad. I'm not saying that's bad. Anytime you're over 26 points and you're averaging pretty much that right now, you're in the conversation. So there's no excuses in this game. And like I said, Hassan Reddick's got to be a factor eventually. Run the ball, and I think they take care of business. And I think they take care of business pretty handily, and they start the season out 3-0. Okay, there goes my 2-4 start. So I'm telling you, I think they get this thing done, because the only way that Washington is in this, and let me ask you this. This is a good point here. You think there's a chance of a letdown after a Monday night game? You think there's a chance of a letdown? What's the point spread? I think it's 6.5. Okay? Davey boy, I'm not going to lie. I still have love for Wentz, but I just never thought he was the right quarterback for the city of Philadelphia. I hope he stays healthy and has a good career, just not against the Eagles. Hey, Davey boy, Wentz has got to work on the most important thing it takes to be a quarterback in this league: being a good teammate. Joshua says 37-20. We're almost there, Joshua. I say 31-20. Okay. By the way, the 31-20 looks like it may be a little closer than you think. It's not really going to be that close, because I think Washington will probably score some chump change at the late part of the game. I don't believe that they're going to, you could go into the fourth quarter and you're up 31-17 and you got this team put away. They kick a field goal and it's 31-20. You know what I mean? Something like that. Okay. I think you're going to get garbage points and garbage yards towards the end of this thing here. But divisional games always worry me, because it's common opponent and the Eagles are working on a short work week. You think there's a shot at a letdown. Remember something. There's not that many guys that are on this football team that are from that 17 team. This is a whole different group of dudes. And they got to learn also how to win. They've also got to learn how to handle success. That is something. Don't play down to your opponent. Have your foot on the gas all the time. Never take anybody for granted. I'm not saying that they've shown that yet either. Okay? Won't be top 5 offense once they play better teams. Vlad, they are one of the better teams. And it just so happens, and Vlad, we got a comment with that and a topic with that. I don't think there's any dominant teams in the NFC. Maybe the Bucs. And the Bucs are so banged up right now, especially at the wide receiver core. They had to sign Cole Beasley. They just signed a guy off the street. Steichen style should give Miles a chance to prove himself. I think he's done a great job so far. He's averaging 85 yards in the first 2 games. I think he's done a nice job. John McMullen's going to join us at the bottom of the hour. We're going to get John's thoughts. He's going to be up there also at FedEx. And he's going to be there at the game too. Jay says 23-20. You really think the game's going to be that close, huh? What about your precious Packers? I'll get to that. I'll get to them. I will. Sills, I need to hear from you. What do you think of the Eagles not scoring any points in the second half of the Vikings game? I think it's conditioning. What Joe Theismann said yesterday. I think that's got a lot to do with conditioning all around the league. I watched that Washington-Detroit game on Sunday of last week. Detroit was all over Washington. Carson Wentz couldn't get anywhere in the pocket. Aiden Hutchinson had 3 sacks. They were pressuring him. Second half came. I thought Detroit was out of gas. Hey, you want to know something too? I thought Baltimore had that Miami Dolphin game tucked away. Second half, Ravens were out of gas. This is a league thing. Okay? The Ravens were out of gas in that second half. Just signed Jason Pierre-Paul because they need more help in the pass rush. Hey, man, conditioning may be a factor in the second half of this game up in Washington, too. Not saying Washington is in better shape. Like I said, it's a league thing. This is one of the reasons why I think Detroit's getting out to a good start here, because they're in shape. Dan Campbell had a really tough camp, and it's showing in how they're playing so far. Look at how Detroit's playing. There's no letdowns in second halves and that. Well, they were a little out of shape. I thought they were a little out of shape in the second half against Washington. Flex says the game will be close because it's a lot of emotions of all around the quarterbacks. The QBs want this game. On top of it, and it puts you in the divisional lead there. It's always close. It is always close. These divisional games are always close. Okay? Absolutely. By the way, everybody in the division right now is either within a game of each other, or this thing could look really interesting after Sunday or Monday night's game, because I think the Giants and the Cowboys play on Monday night too in New York. So I think Dallas wins that ball game. I'll bury the lead on that one. I think they win that ball game, and I think everybody could be tied at the end of the day here. There's a chance, or the Eagles will be the only undefeated team in the NFC East as we get to Tuesday. Dolphins in shape from that Florida Heat. Isaiah, great take. Great take. Hey, Isaiah, watch that Bills game. Remember I said this. Watch that Bills game. Bills and Dolphins this week in South Florida. You better have your gas cap on. Because if you don't have your gas cap on, Buffalo might get upset in that ball game because of the elements. Keep an eye on that. Especially if the Dolphins start rolling around and they start running the ball. They're doing a great job defensively, I think the Dolphins are. Okay? Detroit is making the playoffs. Maybe. Maybe they're making the playoffs. Okay? And if I'm Washington going against Philadelphia, I'm blitzing Jalen as much as I possibly can. Okay? I cannot sit back there and have wide open passing lanes in zone coverage. The Eagles will eat them up. With the play action pass, with the ability to run the ball, they can't play standard defense against Philly. They've got to do something exotic to keep them in the ball game, or they'll be out of the ball game by the end of the first quarter. Remember I said that. They just can't sit back. They just can't sit back and allow Jalen in that offense and Shane Steichen and Nick Sirianni to have these wide open lanes running in the secondary, because the corners, I think, in Washington, they're just not good. So a little bit of the Detroit game plan defensively for Washington. If I'm Washington on offense against the Philadelphia Eagle defensive front, you've got to protect. And you got to win first down. So these divisional games are always close because of common opponent. These divisional games always have a lot of emotion to it. There's a lot of history to it. Obviously, the history with the quarterbacks is involved in this. Ron Rivera is a heck of a coordinator, and he's a heck of a defensive coach. But there is no way the personnel matches up in Washington on what you see in Philadelphia.